So, hello, it's me, Pammy, again. I'm back. No wardrobe change. I just, change my hair up a little bit. Get a little cute. Get a little cute. Anyway, we're here. We're going to talk about SD, or seborrheic dermatitis. This is a short one. I just want to give people an incentive of understanding what seborrheic dermatitis is and what happens with it, okay? So sit tight. Let's talk about it on Locks Talk. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in, have a seat, sit down, let's talk about it. But before I begin, please, if you have been enjoying Locks Talk and the information that I provided for you to help you to treat your hair and prevent catastrophic events from happening to your hair, please hit that like button down there, hit that great big thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel because I have a lot of stuff planned for this year and I want to share it with you. I'm so excited. So let's get started. Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you? Let's do this. So first and foremost, Happy New Year! Or as Eddie Murphy says in Trading Places, Merry New Year! Ah, ha, ha, ha. I kid. So today I'm going to talk about seborrheic dermatitis, aka SD. It's been pronounced as seborrheic dermatitis, and but it's seborrheic dermatitis, SD. Right? What is SD? Seborrheic dermatitis is a skin condition, not a scalp condition, but a skin condition, and your scalp is your skin. But it's not just concentrated to your scalp. It can occur anywhere where there is sweat glands and hair. It can happen here, it can happen here, it can happen here by your ear or behind your ears, on your chest, under your arms, different places all over your body. Seborrheic dermatitis is a flare-up of a combination of dry skin cells and oil mixed together, and it causes this scaly yellow or white pasty looking flake over on your skin surface. So that is what seborrheic dermatitis is. Oftentimes it can be misconstrued as dandruff. Dandruff is a little bit different from seborrheic dermatitis, but the two look very similar. Also with seborrheic dermatitis, it can be like within like little circular areas that it occurs. Dandruff, not so much so. It's not like a shape. So best way I can describe what seborrheic dermatitis looks like, it's like round patches of oily, scaly patches of dry skin and stuff that's just built up on a certain area of the skin. Yeah. Diagnosis of seborrheic dermatitis. You do not have to see a board certified dermatologist to know if you have seborrheic dermatitis. It's really a matter of the eye and really knowing what it is and what it looks like. It does not look like any other condition like psoriasis or anything like that. So you're not going to misconstrue it for something that's more severe, okay? What causes seborrheic dermatitis? Seborrheic dermatitis, number one, the reason for it is because we have these little microorganisms that live on the surface of our skin called Malaysia yeast. I say Malaysia yeast, but I think the Malaysia word is pronounced a different way. I always forget. So Malaysia yeast, okay? I'm gonna write it somewhere on this screen so you can see it. And these microorganisms, they actually feed on other agents that can go on your skin, such as oil, right? So what happens is when you give a lot of food, now think about it. You know what? I don't know if any of you ever seen the movie Gremlins, when Gizmo eats, don't feed him after midnight. So yeah, too much oil build up it's like feeding Gizmo after midnight, and the flare-up are the gremlins. So primarily seborrheic dermatitis is flared up because you have like an over feeding of oil to your skin, whether your skin produces too much oil or you add too much oil to it, and it just sits there, and then the yeast feeds off of it, and then your skin reacts to what secretes from the Malaysia yeast bodies onto your skin, and then there's a reaction that happens, and that's what causes the buildup of scales. Ew. It just look nasty. Oftentimes it can look dry, but it's actually really, if you look closer, it's mixed oil. It's mixed in with oil. So that's why, like, when people scrape it off, it kind of like it's caked up under their fingernails, versus when dandruff, you scratch it and it's just snowing all over you. You know, that's the difference, okay? And dandruff is caused by a fungus, while Malaysia yeast, which is a microorganism, is what causes seborrheic dermatitis. Can I stop? So how do you treat SD? My favorite way to treat seborrheic dermatitis is treatments with seborrheic, treatments with seborrheic. Oh my God. My favorite way to treat seborrheic dermatitis is the use of essential oils that have an agent in it that fights against the Malaysia yeast. I mentioned it in another video. I talked about the Q&A with oil. So my favorite oil that I use to fight against SD is basil oil. That is extremely defensive against the Malaysia yeast. And the other is tea tree oil. Now, oftentimes what I do is a person who has, and I have seborrheic dermatitis, not anymore though. I don't get flare-ups anymore because, you know, I figured it out. I found the formula. So first, I make a base oil using olive oil. And for every 12 drops of olive oil, I add 2 drops of tea tree oil. Tea tree oil should never, ever, 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 ever be used directly on your skin. It must be diluted using a base oil. So every 12 drops of olive oil, 2 drops of tea tree. 12 to 2. That's the ratio, 12-2, okay? And then I take a cotton ball, right? Because you never want to use a comb to scrape your scalp either. That can bruise your scalp. That can cause it to spread even more because you just spread it more in other areas, and now you have it. So I personally don't like to do the scraping thing. I've seen people use combs that are intended to be used to remove lice to scrape and pull, you know, flakes and stuff out of the hair that's caused by seborrheic dermatitis. I don't do the scratching thing. Take the oil mixture that I made with the olive oil and the tea tree oil, cotton ball, and I put it on my scalp all over. Or I use a dropper and put it on my scalp all over. And then all tips of your fingers, never your fingernails. Massage it in there, right? After I massage it in there, I let it sit on my scalp for 20 to 25 minutes. Oftentimes, I like to put a cap over it and use my heating cap to help it really stimulate and get in there and get it off. Once it does that, it loosens and softens it up, and that way when I'm ready to wash it, using a tea tree based shampoo and conditioner, that's what I wash my hair and I'll condition it. Now, these are treatments that I did a few years ago when I really found and figured out, after I sat down and did some extensive research on how to really treat this and to keep it and avoid it from coming back, which I'm going to talk about that too. I did that once, twice. After the second time I did it, it was like not coming back so often. So I was making sure that every time I washed my hair, I was doing this treatment, and I did it for about 2 months. After that 2 months, my scalp stays nice and clean and clear. It's hard to see my scalp because of my gray hair, but I have no flakiness or anything. And it's been a good while since I washed my hair. I don't wash my hair that often in the winter time. I'm like a hobbit in the winter. So what do I need to wash my hair for? I'm gonna wear. So with that being said, ever since then, and this was like several years ago, I haven't had a flare up. Now I'm going to tell you why I haven't had a flare up ever since then. Moving into the next clip. So how did I prevent re-flare-ups? Part of the reason for it is because my skin is naturally oily, right? So there are two things that I do to keep me from re-flaring up with seborrheic dermatitis. Number one, I try to keep and minimize the amount of oil that is on my scalp. So I don't oil my hair I don't oil my scalp that often. I think I oil my scalp maybe twice a week, and that's it, because my scalp produces enough oil on its own where I don't have to do that, right? Where I don't have to oil it that often. And most of the times when I oil my scalp, it's with a hair growth agent, because I am in my menopausal years, and one of the symptoms is thinning hair. But not no more, because I make sure I keep that up. You know, I make sure my hair is regrowing as fast as it's thinning, so that it doesn't look like I'm balding. Because balding is one of the damn symptoms of, you know, menopause for some women that I can't stand that. But, you know, it is what it is. I just want it to be over already so I can get back to my life. You know, it's me, Jessica. No, I'm playing. But with SD, to prevent it, two things that I do. Number one, I do what I call a dry wash, and it's not really a scalp wash. I just make sure that my scalp stays cleaned and cleansed. And one of the agents that I use to make sure that happens is witch hazel. I put some witch hazel on a cotton ball, and I just, you know, make sure that my scalp is clean and it's not overly oily. Witch hazel is good for breaking that. It's like a good toner, like to use to break down excess buildup of oil, because I also use it on my face. That's why, you know, my skin just looks so lovely. And after I do that, I re-moisturize my scalp. Now, I do a moisture routine on a daily basis to make sure that my hair is definitely well fed and moisturized and nice, and just, you see how plump and fluffy my locks look, and even though that they are small, you know, between mini and small, you know, they look nice and full, right? They're full because I keep them moisturized. But I also, part of my moisture routine, I don't use my refresher spray to moisturize my scalp. I put aloe vera gel on my scalp, especially along here. So SD affected this area the most because I get more oil secreting from my face than I do in my scalp. And so when I put like too much oil or buildup in this area, this is what gets built up and causes the flare up. So I have not had a flare up in years, and I'm so happy. And it used to be so embarrassing when I had a flare up, because I had all these little patches of skin that was, and you know, I could tell people are looking like, oh, what is that on her face? Like, I couldn't help what was going on, but now I can. And I'm very grateful for it. I used to have like really bad dark spots in these areas as well. So thank God they ain't there no more. They're not there no more. Good question. Can I develop SD? Anybody can develop SD. It's more common in people that have oily skin already. But if you don't naturally have oily skin, but you use too much oil, baby, yes, you can develop seborrheic dermatitis as well. Because the Malaysia yeast still lives on your skin. Whether you have oily skin or not, it still lives. It's still a microorganism that lives on everybody's skin. So if you feed it, yeah, you can get it too. Be careful with how you use your oil, okay? That's all. So that is all I have to say about SD, aka seborrheic dermatitis. Any and everybody can get it. It's caused by Malaysia yeast or microorganism that lives on the surface of our skin. You can scrub your skin all day. They still there. You ain't gonna get them all. They breed and all of that stuff. They feed off of oil. So whether it's the oil that naturally secretes from your body or oil that you add, they're gonna eat. And when they eat and they get fat and they get all plump, oh, I'm losing my earring. And they get all plump and all big and all that extra stuff. The stuff reacts, your skin reacts to all of that, and the reaction is flare up, scales, itchiness, sticky, pasty, it's you know. And again, you don't have to see a board certified dermatologist to diagnose it, because it is not caused by a bacteria or a virus or anything. There's not an allergen that causes it, because oils, you know, it's not an allergen. So you don't need to have medical doctor diagnose SD. But tea tree oil is the best agent to help fight against it, as well as the basil oil, because it has an agent in it that fights against it. They both have antifungal agents in them. They also both have microbial agents in it, and it helps prevent other infections in addition to SD as well. So just make sure you treat your scalp and you'll be fine. Also, added tip for keeping your scalp under control: if you dilute some apple cider vinegar with water and you spray it on your scalp, that also has a microbial agent that helps fight against and prevent infections and things from occurring. But it also makes your hair super soft. Just don't go overboard with it. You don't want your hair smelling funky like vinegar. It don't smell good. But if it's diluted properly, you won't have that issue. You know, every cup of water should be diluted with 2 tablespoons of ACV. That's it. Don't go crazy doing half and half. That's not how that works. Okay? Blessings. Thank you for joining me for Locks Talk. And I'll see you next time. Signing off.